What is going on, everyone? It's your girl Cobbs, and I am back with more pathologic dissecting nonsense, whatever you want to call it. In my last video, we talked about the Politician trailer that Ice Pick Lodge recently released as part of their pre-Pathologic 3 trailer releases, what I think it means for what we can expect out of Pathologic 3, but also primarily like what bits of the trailer as a newcomer you should be aware of for a Pathologic. I spoke about this in my last video. I think Pathologic is a beautiful franchise and has all of these like deep philosophical meanings. And I think part of the Pathologic experience is getting to the point where you understand some of those philosophical lessons that the game is trying to teach you. So I'm not really trying to take away from that experience. But I do think there's a bit of a learning curve when it comes to Pathologic and some things from the prior games that newcomers to Pathologic 3 may not be aware of. And so that's what I want to talk about today. Like I said, if you don't know me, my name is Cobbs. I like to play a large variety of games, but primarily horror, indie horror, that kind of thing. And Pathologic is one of my favorite games, or franchises, I guess. Without further ado, we are going to be talking about the Plague Doctor trailer, which is one that I've been very excited about. I think there's 3 trailers, right, that I kind of want to go over in this little series that I'm doing. The first one that I already did is the Politician trailer. This one is obviously the Plague Doctor trailer, and then the last one is the Time Traveler. And I think these 3 trailers are highlighting on all of the different roles Dankovsky will take within the town. It's cool to see from that perspective what IPL is placing their emphasis on. One thing that I'm excited to see, because this is a blind reaction. I've been living under a rock. I know these trailers have been out for a month, but I've been really busy with just life stuff. So I'm excited to like finally give these a watch and get into them. I know in the Politician trailer, they did this thing where, and they do it in this trailer too, because I saw the first like millisecond, so I guess it's not completely blind. But in the Politician trailer, they cycled through the characters and landed on Eva, I think right before the last character. So I wonder if we're going to see like a similar order. I don't think we are, because I think, hold. Okay. So we started with Alexander Block. That's Block, right? I'm pretty sure that's Block. We're starting with Alexander Block in the first one and in this one too, which for anyone who's newer to the franchise, I did not do much with him in Artemis' game, which is Pathologic 2, one of the other playable protagonists that you have not really access to, but you could see throughout this franchise. Alexander Block is an interesting character to start these like little like character rotation screens with. I don't know if they do the same characters every time, and I'm gonna be real, I'm not gonna put these trailers up side by side and like, I'm not sick. I am a tad hungover, so we're not doing that today. Even if I wasn't hungover, I'm not sure if that would have like a huge significance on anything. Other than they're highlighting this group of characters because they are more important to Dankovsky's route. If I remember right, Alexander Block is a bigger player realistically in Clara's route, which is one of the other protagonists that you might come across throughout the game. You will come across her, but I'm sure, I think he's relevant to all 3 routes. But anyways, the TLDR, what you need to know is that in this franchise, you have 12 days to solve this plague. This man comes in day 8 or 9-ish, don't quote me on that, with the military, and is like, hey, you didn't figure it out. We're going to blow this shit up on day 12. So if you can't like convince him down an alternate course by day 12, so it's interesting we start with him there. But I'm interested, we haven't even started the fucking trailer yet. I'm interested to see if the last trailer starts with him. I assume it will, because these last 2 trailers did as well. And if the same cast of characters. Let's start the trailer. My God. No, this is different, I think. Yeah.
During the play.
That's crazy. In the politics trailer, it ended with the investigator, but in this one, we're ending with Eva. Wild. You saw Glayla in there too. Okay, we're watching. Eva, I don't want to talk about the same things in every video, but I'll touch on this very briefly. Eva is a very important character to Dankovsky. She is his guide to the town. You stay with her at the Stillwater, which is her home. I highly encourage you to go watch my first video, because I had a little more marbles in that one than I think I do in this one. We'll see. In Classic, when you are able to play through the Bachelor's route, right? I've played through most of his route in Classic, and I personally found her pretty easy to miss. Like, I feel like, especially in our first playthrough, you get caught up with everything going on in the town and you kind of miss what happens with Eva's character. But I think, as we can see in the quarantine thought piece and in the demo, I think they are placing a little more emphasis on her, and they're making that very well known. Like, yes, this person is important to this character that you will be playing. You need to take note of it. And so that's why I think that she has been of such prominence in both of these trailers so far. And I'm sure, I mean, in all the trailers, truth be told. I mean, not all of them, but most of them. Anyways, let's watch.
Say, Mad Doctor became our how mad is to try and save every life.
Yeah, this is what I was talking about. Is it? For a second, I was like, am I watching a different trailer? I'm wondering why, like, the Plague Doctor trailer, I could see why in the Plague Doctor trailer she's more highlighted than the Politician trailer. I haven't watched the Time Traveler trailer. I would assume that as a time traveler, I'm not going to spoil anything, I would assume that as a time traveler, that trailer would have more emphasis on her character than the Plague Doctor. But and again, I'm not going into it because I think there's a lot of really cool things about this character. Not cool is not the right word, but I don't want to spoil it. But if you know, you know. I'm wondering, because of, you know, Eva's character and the motivations behind a lot of her actions, especially with you know what, if that's why she's already being highlighted in this trailer. I don't know, that kind of boggles. I would expect it to be I would expect her story to be more of a focal point from the time traveler perspective, but not the Plague Doctor. But maybe, look, I'm not an expert, maybe I'm missing something.
Even M. The hospital is quiet now. Survivors few.
Do I have, what is this AI? Subtitles, audio track. Do we need to watch this in Russian to get a normal, like,
During the plague, a mad doctor became...
What in tarnation? Just as an FYI for anyone wondering, if you were hearing like an AI dub, which I know YouTube recently rolled that out, I live under a rock. You need to, even though it says the audio track, so mine was defaulted to English, but it sounded like an AI. So you need to change it. If you're a native English speaker, if that is your first language and you do not speak Russian, that's okay. Trust me, change the audio track to Russian original. Do not listen to this in the dubbed English. Dear God, that just gave me, I think that took a year off my life. I do like that she's the narrator. I love her. I'm such a fan. I'm such a fan.
In the plague, a mad doctor became our mayor. But how mad is it to try and save every life?
That's crazy. Okay. I like watched the AI version of this, like, for the first, like, it for me, for the first like minute was like AI voiceover, which is why I was so confused. Hearing her say this and actually hearing the dialogue, like, oh, that's so crazy. Eva is a very selfless character. I feel like that is a pretty easy one to start with. She is a very selfless character. So, but she is also a little bit in La La Land. I don't think that's also inaccurate to say. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this. I'm confused, but I'm excited. I guess if you think about the connection between her actions and Dankovsky, right? Dankovsky is a doctor who is trying to save everyone. He is trying to defeat death. He is a master of thanatology, right? Or a doctor of thanatology, right? So his main focus is defeating death so that everyone can live. So trying to save everyone. I guess him and Eva in that way, like her saying that as a voiceover is alluding to the fact that maybe a little bit of her being in La La Land, but also like that is at his core what Dankovsky is trying to do. I feel like especially if you play Pathologic 2 first and don't play Classic at some point, the Bachelor can come off as this very crass and like unfeeling and uncaring character, which he does say some pretty crazy shit sometimes, and you're like, what? I'm sorry. But at his core, like, he is trying to defeat death. That is, like, he could just like work on that himself, but like he's at his core trying to save everyone. And I think I talk about this a little more in the other trailer video that I have out, but throughout this game, you'll see that he truly is trying to help to the degree that he can. And he's mischaracterized a lot by the people in this town, and I think a lot of people in this fandom, maybe not in the fandom, but like newcomers to this franchise. So I think that's a little bit of what that line, "Is it so bad to try to save everyone," or whatever she says. I do think that's what that's alluding to a little bit, and I really like that connection there. Sorry, we're 13 seconds in. Let's watch.
Even mine.
Even mine. I'm not saying more.
The hospital is quiet now. Survivors, fewer each day. Mornings repeat. Exams, questions, blood tests, diagnosis from cards and manuals.
I don't think that's saying anything we don't know, by the way. Essentially what she's alluding to is, as the plague doctor here, right? Dankovsky will wear many hats in this town, and one of them is the plague doctor. And so one of your responsibilities throughout this game, and we've been told this several times, this isn't new information, will be not only to uncover what's going on with the town and between the town's members, but also to stop the plague. And so she's saying, the hospital's quiet. You will have a hospital setting. We saw gameplay for that in Quarantine. I don't remember if we had gameplay of that from the demo. We probably did, but I have, last video I had sick brain, now I have hungover brain, so you'll have to bear with me. So we know that will be part of his responsibility. Obviously survivors, fewer and fewer. I mean, the plague is devastating. That is not surprising. And she kind of touches on the diagnoses, and we see more of the hospital gameplay there, which is really cool. But look at that full ass amalgam meter. That is a lot of mirrors broke. Let me tell you something. Interesting though, day 6, like early morning, day 6. Isn't this the capital? I think this is the capital, because I think this is like his university. I'm like 99% confident, so I'm curious. I don't know why this footage is here, and I don't know when we go back to the capital. We don't go back to the capital. We do in flashbacks, but like in the day 1 to 12 timeline, I don't think we go back to the capital, so maybe that's something new. I don't know.
But you, Daniil, studied science, not people. And people lie.
Okay, so that's what that is. I'll rewind it and then I'll talk about it.
But you, Daniil, studied science, not people.
Okay, so another element of the hospital gameplay that this is referring to is that people lie. Fila is someone we see in the Quarantine 3 demo who does lie to you, and it's like very good reasons, but he does lie to you about, his symptoms, and I think he ends up like having the plague. I don't remember. I think too, to dive a little deeper in on this, I talked about this a lot in the politics trailer because it came up quite a bit, but in Pathologic 2, and I think players coming from Pathologic 2 straight to Pathologic 3 might get a little bit of like almost culture shock, because in Pathologic 2, once you were cleared of patricide, like everyone is relatively supportive of Artemy, like unless you just really shit the bed with them, like in their district. But like even then, like all the main characters and even townspeople for the most part are all like very supportive of Artemy and want him to succeed and like generally believe in him. Whereas Daniil did not grow up in this step town. People do not know him. They know he's a fancy celebrity if they do know of him. But at some core, they know that he is probably the most qualified person for this job, like in terms of just qualifications. But they do fight him almost every step of the way for this like conundrum that he's in. Like almost every step of the way, they're like, "Why are you doing this?" And as you see here, even some of them even lie to him when he is simply trying to develop a vaccine for them. So that is something that I think we'll see highlighted in Pathologic 3, especially like going from Artemy in Pathologic 2 to Daniil in Pathologic 3, is like people like don't trust Daniil the way they trust Artemy. And even with Daniil having the best intentions of like wanting to help them, like they are not always very helpful back. And I'm excited to see that. Anyways, back to the video. People lie, Daniil. You studied science, not people, and people lie. So true, Eva.
They need more than a doctor. A woman brought in by her mother, not allowed to speak. A student faking symptoms for love. Each saved life brings you closer to a cure. So you are leaving the ward, stepping into bedrooms, basements, stranger places.
Okay, 2 things I want to touch on here. We're going to rewatch this
Woman
again.
brought in by her mother, not allowed to speak. A student faking symptoms for love. Each saved life brings you closer to a cure.
So obviously, people are difficult. People have complex lives. You will have to navigate those in order to get to the diagnoses that you need to in order to like develop a cure or a vaccine to save, ideally, everyone.
So you are leaving the ward, stepping into bedrooms, basements.
So you'll have to go to people's homes. You'll have to investigate them. Again, this is like, I'm just like kind of recapping this, but this is all things we've seen from like previous like demos, quarantine, Pathologic 3. Like this is not new information.
Stranger places. Could a teacher be poisoned during a game of tea?
So, and she also says something to the effect of, hold on.
Stranger places.
So this is obviously like talking about you'll have to leave the hospital. You'll have to go to people's homes, stranger places. This is obviously Daniil trying to acquaint himself with the steppe culture, which is very foreign and new to him. Looks like there's like a ceremonial something or other here. This isn't just not the traces of that so-called celebration. I hope at least it's beef. All right. Anyways, I don't think she's saying anything like new here. Like I'm trying to pick up little nuances here and there to point out to you, but like I don't think she's saying, or to point out to any newcomers to the franchise, but I don't think she's saying anything new that we're not aware of, right? Like you'll have to diagnose people, you'll have to get to the bottom of it. But unfortunately people are difficult. And so you will have to do like some detective work here to like figure out exactly why they're lying, what the situation is, and what that means for their diagnoses, and then take whatever you can from that to work on your cure and your vaccine. So
Could a teacher be poisoned during a game of tea? Could someone hide what exactly they gave to the children? Will you treat symptoms, search for the truth, or listen to your heart?
I was a little like uncertain about using the term detective since this is the Plague Doctor trailer, but then the game just, or the trailer just went to used act like a detective several times, which I guess if you look at it, this is kind of like, I think these three being highlighted on every piece of evidence we've seen in this last little bit of the trailer is interesting. Act like a doctor. Daniil knows, he's more of a scientist, I would say, but like, yes, I'm sure he has, bedside trade. Like he knows how to act like a doctor, act like a detective. Like that's a different hat he'll have to wear, and then act like a human being. Like I feel like that's going to be like a difficult balance for him, not because he's not a human, but because like he's having to make very difficult decisions, which even in Pathologic 2, you have to make very difficult decisions, but people generally like understand and support them. I'm not saying that's it for everyone, but it's they're much more forgiving of you as Artemy than as Daniil, making difficult decisions for the betterment of the town, acting like a doctor and quarantining people, acting like a detective, and barging into their homes, which both of those are for their sake, for the betterment of the town. But if you look at it from the human being aspect, no one's going to be happy with you. And I think that's going to be a very difficult balance that we're going to see Daniil have to struggle with, or that we are going to struggle with.
The choice isn't to save everyone, it's to save each one. Pathologic 3 holds more stories than before. To untangle them, you must dive inward, sifting through your own thoughts, piecing clues together. Just remember, conclusions can be wrong. Every story has more than one ending. I wonder, is there another one for me?
Okay. I won't spoil anything, blah, blah, blah. Okay. IPL. Sorry for trying to keep it spoiler free. My bad. I'm still not going to say it. I'm still not going to spoil it. But let's watch that again.
Pathologic 3 holds more stories than before. Each one.
Here. So she's saying Pathologic 3 has more stories than ever before. What's interesting, though, is highlighting the polyhedron here. Okay, I won't stay stuck on this too long, because I don't think I could say enough about the polyhedron to, like, fully, like... I think I could say too much and not enough at the same time. The polyhedron is a structure that was built by the architects of the town that you'll meet, and the children of the town have taken it over. And that is their home. In a way, Dankovsky's goal and dream is very connected with the polyhedron. That's all I'm going to say about it, but I'm sure we will see more. But that is what this giant structure is. It's kind of near the cathedral. It's very hard to miss. So you will see more of that. But I do hear what she's like talking about here though. Before we start again, what she's talking about is like, you will be trying to save everyone and blah blah blah, and like that is one of the main components of Pathologic. If you've played it before, is you want to save everyone, but unless you're like on your 12th playthrough and are like min maxing it, right? There's no way you can save everyone. It is very difficult, and very impossible to do on your first playthrough, especially if you're playing on the intended difficulty. I'm just referencing Pathologic 2. But it is not something that is easily manageable. And so that is one of the lessons that you learn, that Pathologic 2 and I think Pathologic 3 will focus on, is like, unfortunately, can't be everywhere at once. Even as a plague doctor, time traveler, whatever, you can't be everywhere at once. So are you going to be able to save everyone? No. Gonna try, but no. But you might be able to save some people. Important people.
Pathologic 3 holds more stories than before. To untangle them, you must dive inward, sifting through your own thoughts, piecing clues together. Just remember, conclusions can be wrong. Every story has more than one ending. I wonder, is there another one for me? It's up to you, player.
Oh my god. Oh, that's insane. That it's up to you, player. There's like an ongoing play metaphor where throughout the game that you'll see, or at least this is the way it was in Classic and Pathologic 2, where there's like a few very fourth wall-y characters that will like just talk to you as if you're an actor who is taking over the stage from the last one. Every time you die in Pathologic 2, you go and talk to Mark Immortal, who is like, blah, 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 you suck. And now a new actor will take over your role. There's something similar to that in Pathologic 3, at least from what we saw in the demo. But I almost wonder if that's kind of another fourth wall-y thing here that the game does a lot, is like refer to you as like the character, the actor that's taking over the stage. That's what this trailer is doing with referring to us as the player, kind of alluding to that metaphor without like diving you into it immediately. Because I do think in a way Pathologic 3 is trying to be not a little more beginner friendly. I do think they're trying to attract a wider audience, but we will see. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong about that. She said something interesting here about just because you came to a conclusion doesn't mean it's correct, or something to that effect, which is, again, something that's been touched upon quite a bit. Like, just because you think something doesn't mean it's correct, and that there are different conclusions to every story. She talks a little bit too about how there are more stories in Pathologic 3 than before, which I think means like there's going to be a lot of branching paths. I mean, I think that's one of the things we love about Pathologic, is like there's so many different ways you can take the game in terms of what you do with the people of the town and how that affects the town and blah blah blah. And I think as Dankovsky, because it's interesting with Dankovsky, everyone is kind of like relying on you and like expecting you to do everything, and is also at the same time like judging you and being like, why are you doing it this way? You know? So I think especially as someone who takes over the town as a politician, as a plague doctor, and as a time traveler, you will have a lot of autonomy to make decisions that affect the people around you, maybe in a greater way than we've seen in previous games. And I want to hear what she says one more time here.
Conclusions can be wrong.
Yeah, conclusions can be wrong. And so again, she talked about that quite a bit previously in the trailer. It's like, people will lie to you. Just because like you think a conclusion is the correct one and the way to go, like that doesn't mean it is. And so you kind of have to like not only doubt yourself and like double check yourself, but also like double check the people who are trying to help you. I don't have much to say about these guys. I think it's just cool imagery, but I fucking love them. Other than the fact that like it's kind of crazy. Like these don't even they're supposed to be humans in plague masks, right? They don't even look human though.
Every story has more than one end.
Like they're like so like bird-like here. Like that's and there's so much more you could say about that. I'm not, but like it's just so cool.
I wonder, is there another one for me?
So saying like, you know, there's different endings and different conclusions. I wonder if there's another one for me. So a lot of stuff happens with Eva. In previous games, we weren't able to change it, but maybe in this one we could. I don't, honestly, if you want me to guess, I don't think we're going to be able to change anything about the way her story concludes, but we will see.
It's up to you, player.
Oh, dude, that's so epic. I don't know if that's her actual voice actor, but I love whoever's doing the narration here, especially for Eva, or like as Eva. Anyways, that is the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry this one was a little bit chaotic, but it started a little bit chaotic because I started the video listening to the like AI summary. It was like mind-boggling. It hurt my brain. Like I said, I'm not an expert on Pathologic, but if you agree or have thoughts, opinions, whatever, I would love to hear them. Please leave them in the comments. And if you made it to this point in the video, if you don't mind liking it as well, the YouTube algorithm is a fickle beast and it helps me out quite a bit. I also want to say thank you to everyone who subscribed to the Patreon and helped make this video possible. If you're a YouTube member or subscribe to our Patreon, you get early access to videos like this one. So if you're interested in those kind of benefits, check out the links in the description. That's all I got for you. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.